There's no point in you deploying budgets into a branded campaign when no one's really searching for your brand. Hey friends, today we're going to talk about how to optimize and improve your Google Ads performances and campaigns. And this can also be applied to Microsoft Search or Bing Ads. First one is make sure that your account structure is towards a modern search approach. And what that basically entails is making sure that rather than having too many segmented campaigns or ad groups, consolidate those where it makes sense. So if you have a brand campaign, for example, make sure that not every single brand term has its own ad group or its own campaign, because that's going to make your campaign suffer and it's going to make your budget spread way too thin, right? Because the whole point of advertising is to make sure that you're optimizing performance, not necessarily always insights focused. Whereas before, a lot of pay-per-click specialists would segment their keywords at an ad group level. There's a term for it called SKAG, single keyword ad group, because what they realized is that a specific keyword would always have a better performing ROI, so they would just double down on that and then post all the other ad groups. Whereas now, the algorithms are a lot smarter. Consolidate those different relevant and themed keywords into one campaign, and if you want, you can separate those into different ad groups where it makes sense. But to summarize that, rather than having too many campaigns, too many ad groups, any relevant themes of keywords that are very highly related, put them under one campaign to make your budgets work harder and to help the algorithm optimize and prospect your ad impressions to the right audience a lot faster. Second one is make sure you apply account level negative keywords and campaign level negative keywords. So obviously you need to actually have a negative keyword list for this, but make sure that you always have an always on negative keyword list at account level. And for your different campaigns, make sure that there's a negative keyword list for that specifically as well. So what that actually looks like is if you have a brand campaign, make sure that you're excluding generic terms, and then on your generic campaigns, make sure that you're excluding brand terms. Because what you don't want is to look at your search terms results in a couple of months' time, understanding that there's actually terms that are being deployed vice versa to both different campaigns. Because what that essentially entails is that your own campaigns are competing with each other, hiking up your cost per clicks, hiking up your cost per acquisition. Third one is make sure every couple of weeks that you look at your campaign's search terms results and filter it by the number of conversions. What you'll find usually is that there's a lot of search terms that you're not targeting as a keyword bringing you those conversions, and make sure obviously to add them, and vice versa. If there's any search terms that you're spending a lot of money in but you're not getting any conversions, make sure to deploy those as negative keyword lists. But obviously be sensible enough to know that if that search term is an actual relevant term, make sure that you don't add it as a negative, especially on the generic terms or non-brand terms that you have. Fourth point is very controversial, but this is just my perspective. Knowing that advertising is an auction, the person or the company that tends to pay more tends to get a better impression share and tends to get more impressions. So my idea is, if the business's goal is to get more volume of conversions, remove any form of caps, and this more specifically is to maybe B2B campaigns or lead gen campaigns. Remove your target CPAs, because by adding a target CPA, you're reducing your impression share or your competitiveness, and you're losing those volume conversions. And obviously that depends on the business as well. If the business is all about cost efficiency, there's no point in removing your target CPAs. You want to be mindful of the budget that you have for that specific cohort of time or that specific year. But generally speaking, if you want to improve your performance at a faster rate, remove your target CPAs. Next point is make sure that you utilize all of the parameters that you have within your responsive search ads. So make sure you fill out every single headline within the headline section, so you get up to 15. Same exact concept for your descriptions. Make sure you utilize every single description. You have up to 4. And if relevant, you can even pin different headlines. If your brand or company has a very specific offer in place, make sure that's pinned as headline 1, for example. If they're unique selling propositions, make sure those are obviously pinned where relevant, headline 1, 2, or 3. And by deploying all the different parameters and filling those parameters with ad copy, you're giving the algorithm a better performance of combining those aspects, so you can actually get better performances for your campaigns. Next point, if you have capacity, whether you have a web developer at hand or a conversion rate specialist, deploy different A/B tests by testing 2 different landing pages for the specific ad group that you're deploying. So what that looks like is having 2 identical responsive search ads, but each of those ads have a different URL. So one URL or landing page could be very call to action focused. Maybe the call to action is above the full section of your website, whereas the second responsive search ad URL or landing page will have more of an educational or more copy within the ad. Maybe there's a lot more copy within the landing page. There's more of an education aspect to it, and the call to action is more maybe in the middle of the page or at the end of the landing page. And obviously at a certain point in time, once you've deployed this A/B test, look at the data, see which landing page is actually doing a lot better. And this approach has more of a conversion rate optimization aspect aspect of it, but it's very important as paid search specialists to understand that A/B testing, not just inside the Google Ads platform, but obviously outside of the platform too. If you find that your landing page 1, for example, is doing a lot better, then pause your landing page 2 and then so on and so forth. The final point is to make sure that your budget allocations make sense where possible, and this will obviously depend upon the business approach or their strategy at the moment. If you're a new brand, I would highly recommend to make sure that you're doubling down on generic keywords. You're trying to prospect for audiences, right? You're trying to invite them in. There's no point in you deploying budgets into a branded campaign when no one's really searching for your brand. If there's less than 100 people searching for your brand, I would not recommend spending money in branded campaigns. It's all about prospecting at that stage of the business, whereas if you're a business that has a lot of competitors and you're quite well known within your space, say you're Nike, for example, I would maybe even triple down and emphasize budgets towards your branded campaigns, because it's a guarantee that your competitors are likely bidding on your branded terms, and you want to make sure that for your branded terms that your impression share is at its maximum, so you would increase your budgets towards those campaigns. So that's the end of the video. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two, and let me ask you, what's your favorite paid search tip so far? Leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Peace and love.